Welcome to NEK Rocks and VT Rocks, sorry. And my guest today is Cynthia Shelton, and we're going to be talking about the gig economy. What's that?
The gig economy is when you have a lot of little tiny jobs that have an uncertain future.
You mean the way most of us have worked all of our lives?
All of us have done a gig at some point or another. If we've taken care of a neighbor's baby or mowed a lawn or run a garage sale, that's a gig. So it's not a new concept at all. It just has a new fancy name.
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw it written down, I come from a sort of music background, so it was, oh, gigs, yeah. Which stage are we talking about?
Right.
But that's really, you've ripped off the word.
No, I didn't do it, but it has been taken from the 1920s musicians' word for an event that they go and play at.
Yeah. So we're talking about something that you, and certainly I, and probably everybody else in this studio, and almost everybody else I know in life, has done, which is either hire somebody or hire themselves out for a variety of different jobs. What is it that you're doing in this enterprise, which is really interesting?
I'm just trying to connect the jobster with the gigster. Yeah, I just made that up this morning. I just needed it to be equal because employer and gigster felt like a master-slave kind of a situation. Yeah. So I'm trying to make them more equal, and jobster, for lack of a better word, and gigster are the people who do the work and want the work done. And we already have a great amount of that online, but not everybody's online. There's Facebook and Front Porch Forum and Craigslist. And Craigslist isn't well used here because it's a strange animal and we're not used to it. Not like in other places where you can actually get executive positions on Craigslist. It's pretty wonky out here. At any rate, for people who do not use that, we have in-person and bulletin boards and hopefully someday a phone line.
Okay, so if I want somebody to watch my chickens while I travel, I would contact you, or I would contact what?
Right now our contact, we're just one step up from a bulletin board basically. Okay. So we have unfortunately an email, so if you do online and you can email or have somebody email for you, then you can send a request. Or every Saturday at 10, we're at the Workplace Common, which is 194 Main Street.
That's right above Newport Natural.
Exactly.
Cool.
Third floor, and there is an elevator.
That
so you don't have to walk up.
Building that's been really beautifully renovated.
It's been renovated and
gorgeous.
It's amazing, and I walked by it for 8 months and didn't think it was for me, and then I went in and said, hey, this is pretty cool. And they are donating the space very kindly so that we can try to get this thing up and running.
That's really cool.
That is very nice. So right now at 10 o'clock, mostly between 10 and 11, we try not to spend too much time down there waiting for people to show up. We have work that we're trying to get going, so we work on that, and if somebody shows up, we help them. And they would sign up, which just means they give us their contact information so that we can find them again. And we meet them eye to eye and talk to them a little bit.
And they say what services they're looking for.
Exactly.
So, again, if I want somebody to babysit my chickens, I can come in to the workplace and say, I've got chickens. I'm going to be away from A to B. I need a chicken sitter.
Right. Do you know anybody? And then I would look on we have a list of the gigsters and a list of the jobsters and the jobs. And we try to match them up. And right now that's done manually, and hopefully it will be done on differently. Hopefully you'll be self-serve in the future, so that, because we're all volunteers, and so we're just trying to make it work for people. If there was a Kelly service in town, then they would charge a fee. And these are jobs that there's not much fee to be extracted. They're not that, if you're $10 or $15 jobs, you can't take a fee out of that and expect to make a living.
No.
So
you don't see your future career path as the jobster, gigster coordinator par excellence?
No, I want it to take off on its own and have a life of its own.
And presumably you're working in this industry anyway. So you're looking for gigs.
I discovered that one of the reasons that I started this was because I was working for the Council on Aging, and I found that some of my clients did not we're not able to get the services they need, there is a wonderful way to get volunteers that they offer, and those people are background checked and fingerprinted, and that's wonderful, but not everybody wants to do that. And they are not necessarily paid. There's also a paid version of that, senior, it's like the Peace Corps version for seniors. And they're just a stipend, but it's a very small stipend and you can't really live on it. So the alternative is referrals, and you're not allowed to refer when you're working for a corporation. So I thought perhaps we could do this the old-fashioned way.
Which is absolutely wonderful. I was working with a group called Age Friendly Newport for a while, and actually this is the issue over which I left that group.
Oh my.
Because it seemed like it was a service that was really needed, and if we're talking about using the lingo, aging in place. If we're going to age in place, and I include myself in this, then there are some things that I need assistance with. What I don't need is a caseworker to tell me what I need assistance with. It's really insulting. But there was nothing else, and there appeared to be no way forward through that. We tried a version of it online, but that also required more energy and coordination than any of us had time or energy for at the time.
Yes, and hopefully there will be someone somewhere who wants to put this online, but I'm not that person. I have my limits of how much I want to spend on time online. But so how to find those people, and I'm hoping that it's going to be a word of mouth. It's really important that your audience, that you guys
your audience right now,
that people do contribute to the process, that you either add yourself to the pool of one or the other, or both.
Oh, both.
And
I'm willing to babysit somebody else's chickens and cats.
I love chickens. But if you know of someone who can't come in on a Saturday, maybe you help them write up a little notice, or maybe you help them fill out the form and come bring it in for them, or maybe email me something to tell me that I can add it to the list. So every Saturday at 10, I bring in a list of what I personally have found so far, which is limited. And some of it I found online and people don't know about it, and some of it is stuff that I've turned down that I can't do myself, and so I want to offer it to others. And that is available to anyone on Saturday at 10 o'clock. But it would be lovely if it grew. I've already had to make the font size smaller because there's more. So that's good.
So eventually there's going to be a really long list of people offering services, and then those of us who want services will have a great array of options to look at, and then negotiate with the person, which is clearly all we ever wanted in the first place.
And all of the negotiations I'm going to leave to the people who are involved, because I am not vetting people. I'm not going in the business of making sure that everybody's who they say they are. That is the old-fashioned bulletin board. This is, again, only one step up from the bulletin board. And I'm also not giving people any personal information, contact information, unless they themselves have offered their information. Because that's an accountability, and then I want them to actually talk to the person in person. And that's what we're missing. And that, to me, is what builds the community. Just walking around yesterday with little flyers to tell town people about it required that I go face-to-face with people and talk to them. And to me, that's what it's about.
And I assume people were really receptive.
Once they understood what I was saying, once I could get across what I was saying, they were very excited. And we had several people sign up on the spot.
Oh, that's great. People who had services to offer, or people who wanted people to provide services?
Yesterday it was people who wanted to do the work.
Oh, cool.
So I think this Saturday is going to be very busy because I've got at least 5 people who said.
That's great. So you mean next year I don't have to stack my own wood?
Right.
Ah! Right. That would be wonderful.
Yes, no, I could have stacked it for you.
Well, yeah, but I didn't know.
And I'm gigster number 1, so so if nobody else is there and I can do the job, I will try to. I just want it to start getting rolling. Like that nice big snowball thing.
How do fees get set?
Everybody sets their own fees. Because I've done a lot of this over my life, pretty much my entire adult life has had some kind of, more than adult life, because my mother used to sell me to the neighbors to do garage sales.
I love that when parents peddle their kids. It's great.
She used to say, go, Saturday, go, you get 10% of whatever you sell. I did very well.
When we first moved up here, literally, I mean, we'd been in the house, say, 2 days, and a neighbor from the street came down dragging her daughter with her and introduced us and said, she needs to earn money.
Yep.
This is what she can do. It was great.
It's a gig.
Yeah, it was great.
And in fact, we did have a sophomore in high school come by one Saturday and said, I want to shovel snow. Who do I shovel snow for? So I'll hook you up. He was sent away with 20 business cards with his name and contact information and what he does on it that are NEK GiGs INC cards so that they know that he's with us, and 3 leads to go shovel snow in his area.
That's great.
I don't know what happened.
That's okay. That's not your problem.
It's not my problem, but I hope it worked.
Yeah, that actually is really great.
Yeah.
So to go back to fees, do you give people a clue about what's reasonable and what isn't?
Yeah. So for instance, the sophomore was kind of undercutting himself a little bit. And I said, you know, I wouldn't charge anybody less than $10 to shovel snow.
He was going to charge less than $10?
Yes, and I said, and your shoveling is better than my shoveling, so I think you can only go down. You can give him a discount, but you can't raise it. So he went, okay. So he didn't know, and he got a clue, and I hope it worked out for him. Yeah. So I think that's one of the issues that comes along is that people don't know what to charge. Right. On both sides. Yes. That it is reasonable for most things to be $15 an hour these days.
Absolutely.
That somebody might accept less because they like the client or they're willing to do that the one time.
Financial hardship.
That for whatever reason they're willing to do it, and that's fine. That's their business. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out a set level to at least start people at and have reasonable expectations. Right. And also that there's an honorable exchange both ways. Yeah. That just because you're a kid, you don't get paid less for things that you're doing that adults do. If you're doing a job well, you should get paid well for doing it. Exactly. And that's how I kept horses when I was a kid. It was the only way that's the only way you get to ride. That's right. You got to muck if you're going to ride. Exactly. Or do other jobs that paid you enough so you could afford to do what you wanted to do. Yep. I think in a rural environment we even have that more. Yes. Because there's all the farms. And then on certain days the farmer needs 6 bodies to get the hay in right now because it's going to rain tomorrow. How do you find those people? I'm hoping they'll know that they can go to a trusted pool of people who will show up. Eventually it would be really fun to be able to go on a cell phone and if there's a stat, you know, we need 6 people over there, first 6 people show up, we'll get paid. Yeah. Go. And then have, you know, what a great problem if they had too many people. That would be fabulous. Yeah. It would. How do people figure this out with things like that, you know, that nasty word taxes? How do you do that? So as everybody knows, a lot of these jobs have been done under the table for years. I am not actually an advocate of doing these things under the table because you need to pay into your Social Security. We need to have local taxes paid so that we can have our roads and all the things that we do here. So it's a community effort to pay in your share. Yeah. At some point when the call arises, I'm hoping we'll be able to do workshops to help people do the SE form for self-employment and to figure out how to keep logs. Yes. And that is a whole other ball of wax in learning how to make sure that your efforts are known, respected, counted, and that you're compensated properly. Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a difference between somebody who's just taking on a couple of little gigs like feeding chickens or who is really doing this as their full-time work. And it is possible to make 40 hours a week of little bits of a job. I don't have 40 hours a week, but I can at times. I have at times done my complete income collection through this and that, and it's been very important that I do that because I've been on the road and there have been things that have kept me from having a full-time job, caretaking of people. Yeah, there's lots of reasons why people need gig jobs, and they're every age. You know, somebody who's like the 15-year-old who's trying to make a
Right.
little money to do something, and somebody who's got Social Security income that doesn't reach the end of the month, and
Right.
everybody in between. So it can take up to 2 months to get your real job in place from the time you start interviewing. And what
Right.
do you do in that 2 months of time? You've still got to pay
Exactly.
rent and eat. You're not going to go into debt for that
Right.
until you get hired. So also, one of the people we met yesterday had just moved to the area and did not have the benefit of friends and neighbors and relatives to give them
Right.
cues. So people who are new to the area, they need a link in. They need a doorway
Right.
where they can hear what the underground rumble is.
Many of us who have moved here knew nobody when we
Yep.
moved here. That would be you and me.
Yeah.
And it is hard
Yep.
to figure out.
And I've been lucky because I've bumped into people and become friends with people who are locals.
Yeah.
But so we shouldn't discourage people from living here. It is not.
No.
It is not an I can't speak English. It is not an employment wasteland.
Right.
Just like the NEK is not a cultural wasteland. There's so much stuff to do here. I can barely figure out what to do.
If people want stuff to do, there are so many choices
Yeah.
every day of
Yeah.
the week. It's
And there's
crazy.
no real competition because there's
No.
so much work to do.
Yes.
If only you knew where it was.
Yes.
So I'm feeling the
That-
abundance here.
Yeah.
not the scarcity.
So if people can't make 10 o'clock on Saturday, and that's not an easy time for a lot of people,
Yep.
particularly if they've got kids,
Yep.
how are they going to find you?
If they can get online,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure out how to get some sort of a mailbox or a drop box. It might take some creativity until we get a donated extension where they can call in.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, I would hope that they would come in person somehow and somewhere to meet us so that we have this face-to-face thing. Now, we're very fortunate because on December 18th, which is 2 weeks from yesterday,
Yes.
December 18th, which is a Wednesday night, 4 to 6 p.m., we're going to be over in the space next to Brenda's on Main Street.
Yes. Diana Henry's.
Diana
Stu-
Henry's
The Red Dot Studio. Red something.
Wall Studio.
Red Wall. I knew it was red
And
something.
next week, look for a nice big display in the window that's going to be up all week to advertise, and it's just a meet and greet with refreshments. It's a meet and greet with refreshments, and we're going to give people tags, and it's their first name and then a dot for whether or not they're a gigster or a jobster, and some people will have 2 dots. Right?
I would expect 2 dots.
Great. So just have some cookies, have some punch, mill around, look at photographs, look for people who have the skill
Yeah.
sets that you're looking for.
Right.
That would be an opportunity where you could come and find somebody who you wanted to come and take care of your chickens,
Yes.
and you can just interview them on the spot,
Absolutely.
and maybe bring some writing
Bring
utensils.
your chicken.
Probably not bring a chicken. There is a cat in the
I
Red
know.
Wall Gallery.
I know that cat.
So, chickens and cats now. Yeah, so so December 18th, which is Wednesday, 4 to 6 p.m. We'll have the lights on. Can't miss it. Come on down.
So this is what we're doing today is something that goes out on NEK-TV, but it stays in perpetuity. So this will be a video that you can use and we can use at any time. I presume there will be other ways that you have in the future for people to do a meet and greet if they can't do Saturday morning.
Yes, we are looking for other ways to do that. It really depends on the demand. If people start clamoring for ways to find their way in, then perhaps the Department of Labor will relent and let us have a phone line extension.
I'm sorry to laugh.
I know. I can hope. Or
From a bureaucracy.
Or perhaps a nonprofit in town will see this and say, we have an extension they can use. That's no skin off our nose. It really depends on what the rules are for any particular organization. So if anybody's seeing this now and they would like to donate an extension and a 24-hour mail remotely accessed
What about a $10 a month track phone? Don't those take messages?
then I'd have to carry it, and it would not be something that
others could access.
Right. So hopefully this is because there's several of us doing the volunteering, and hopefully more in the future.
That wouldn't work.
I was going to hope that people could take turns answering and dealing with the list. So, and we don't want to put it online.
Right.
So, for instance, somebody told me about Google has some kind of free phone service mail thing. But my understanding is that when you do the Google phone line, that they sort of inhale all of the information, and if you're giving all your contact information, they'll have it. And I'm not sure.
They have it anyway.
Yes, but some people who are doing diligently trying to stay off the internet, that would be a drawback for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And there have to be other ways, obviously.
I don't want to help that.
No.
Yes, no, there has to be a way. Maybe the phone service would offer one. I don't know. We're exploring ideas. Perhaps it's something that the county would foot the bill for, or maybe all of the NEK together would chip in to buy a phone line that would serve all of. There's lots of options. We just haven't explored. We've only been doing this since August.
Wow, that's not long.
No.
Yeah.
So there's more to explore.
Has the press discovered you yet?
We had a nice article in the Chronicle in December.
Yeah.
And they're looking to do a follow-up, so I said as soon as I have something to follow up with, please come on down. So maybe they'll be there on December 18th, and that would be great. And then you guys.
How do people, and sort of playing with the mailbox idea, how do people who don't have a fixed place to live handle that now? I mean, it used to be that some organizations would provide that as a service. Maybe there's a way that the workplace commons could do mailboxes somehow.
They have.
If it could get funded by an organization.
Yes, it's $45 to have a mailbox monthly there because everybody wants one, and so they're at a premium. So I am not personally prepared to pay that.
That's a lot of money.
So if somebody wanted to donate that, that would be great. But it would have to be something that continues on so that.
Right.
I'm just even thinking a lockbox somewhere would be fine.
Shove a little note in.
Exactly, that you could just, that it had a little padlock so people wouldn't mess with it, but, that they could just, like one of those suggestion boxes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Newport Natural. Talk to them about a suggestion box.
Possibly. Again, if it takes off and has some traction, people might say, that would be okay if you put that on the wall, especially if it was an attractive thing, it wasn't annoying. People could just slide in, pop their little note in, and say, help.
How many of you are really working this now?
Oh, there's 2.
Well, that's we, so.
That is a we. I love that. But it's funny how many people have expressed the desire to help. And like any organization, you have people who express interest in participating and then making stuff happen. And there's usually a core of people who sticks around and does the bulk of the work, and that's fine.
And sometimes people need to sort of walk around the edge first before they really
sniffing
jump. Exactly. Well, yeah, why not? Because there's lots of things that they've walked around and got bitten.
Yep. And there's lots to compete with as far as time is concerned. We're busy people, and
particularly when you're trying to cobble together a living. And it's really hard. The gig economy is fabulous to fill in holes, but as you know, and I know, it's really hard to have that as your full-time job.
But if you think about it, 22% of your month time is spent on work. So less than a quarter is a 40-hour-a-week job. So it is possible to cobble together these things here and there over the month. It's not that. But you are constantly looking. That the search, the hunt, the fishing is always going on.
Right.
And that is exhausting, and some days you just get nothing.
Right. And particularly for those who don't have access to health care. It's really hard to think of, how do I do that? How do I manage to earn some kind of living? And clearly, I think we need an alternative to the model of healthcare we have, but that's a whole nother discussion.
Unfortunately, Vermont healthcare is there, and it is nobody's intention to stay on that.
Right.
It's not the ideal for anyone. but it is there. So we're
Yes.
fortunate here about that. What's interesting is that other parts of the country, they're having the same conversation about the
Yes.
gig economy, only they're talking about it as urban tech. Because online, there are these middlemen, and even in the Craigslist ads, if you say handyman needed, and then you
Right.
click on that, and it's some internet thing,
Right.
like temp agency, that you
Yes.
log in and you pay a certain amount, and then you might get jobs in your area.
Yeah.
But we don't really have that going on here. You might be able to do that in Burlington, but not so much here. And there's no Uber here.
Right.
These DoorDash things, you just don't see people wanting to do DoorDash here.
No.
So that whole conversation about urban tech gig economy is not for us. We have a different twist.
Right. Well, we don't even have broadband still in
Right,
a lot
it's-
of areas. And it's fine saying, well, people can use their smartphones. Where I live, I don't have a smartphone
And
because
they're
it won't
dead
work.
spots.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And technically, I live in Newport, but it's still a dead spot.
sure,
And there's many of them.
sure.
So it'll be a long time before we ever get to that place. If we ever do, and frankly, who cares?
Right, and if we
'Cause
can
there's other
function
choices.
without it
Mm-hmm.
or in conjunction with it,
Right.
if you can get it, great. If you're not, you don't get blocked. That's
Yeah.
why the ink in NEK GiGs INC is for inclusive.
That's much better than incorporated.
Yeah, no incorporation.
Yeah. Are there other places that are doing it this way that you know of? Or are they sort of underground?
I've been looking, and I
Mm-hmm.
can't find anybody. I know that in New York State there is a freelancers union, which is
Yes.
an interesting idea, and eventually, I mean, that's just down the road. Also, the other thing I wanted INC to stand for is incubator, because it is
Right.
my opinion that at the heart of every frustrated serial gigster is an entrepreneur. That basically you haven't found what it is you want to do. And I've started 3 businesses now.
Right.
By accident. And I learned more from doing those things than any schooling I ever got.
Right.
Gave me more street cred, too,
Yes.
and confidence.
And I would bet there are many of us who can say the same thing.
Yeah.
It's fine to have a day job that works, that gives you enough survival tools, a roof over your head, but it's truly not the way many of us would choose to be in the world if we really had a choice,
Right.
if we didn't have to maintain things like that roof over our head.
Ideally, you do what you love.
Yes.
But we don't all get the ideal.
Right.
And I'm not sure that gigster jobs are ideal, but in the past month, I have gone out and slogged around in the snowy fields to find red dogwood sticks
Yes.
for landscapers and for florists for the winter florist season.
Yes.
And I've alphabetized audiobooks, and I've beat back blackberry hedges, and I've done all kinds of things that I wouldn't have tried otherwise. And there's its own set of learning and a bit of exercise as well.
I bet.
Milked
I was going to say you
goats.
don't see a career path massacring blackberry bushes.
Well, actually, I was grooming them. I was making them
Yeah, right.
beautiful. Yeah.
Sure.
They're going to be great blackberries next year.
I hope so.
Yeah. So there is something to be said for trying things. It is a path of trying things,
Yeah.
especially if you're brave enough to say,
Right.
well, I've never
Done it, but I'll
done
try
that,
it.
but if you're willing to show me what it is you need, I'll
Right.
go for it.
It's actually really interesting that somebody approached you saying, I need these particular twigs for the winter decorations
Yes.
I make. That's really cool. How
Yeah,
did that
who
even
knew?
happen?
And now I
Who
can't
knew?
stop seeing them everywhere.
Yeah, well, of course.
Because you've been hunting them for 2 days.
Yeah. So are you still collecting those?
No, I don't have the way to sell them. So, I mean, they were all taken to Boston to the wholesale market down there for
Wow.
florists. Yeah, no, our little twigs went down there.
Huh.
They have to be special, not just any twig.
How did somebody even find you to even suggest that?
Well, that was something I saw on Craigslist. And it was really, truly a short notice thing. It was, I wrote to the guy on one day, and then the next morning he said, okay, and I had 10 minutes to leave the house.
And did
to
you
get
even
them.
know what you were looking for at
No,
that time?
no, I had no clue. We just drove to Glover,
Yeah.
met somebody I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I went with my friend, so I was
Sure.
safe. It was safe. And we just said, what do you need? And, oh, this is what we're doing. And we went slogging around in knee-high snow.
So how many hours of work did that generate?
We could have worked for 7 hours, but we were pretty wiped out after 5.
I bet.
And not a young chicken anymore. And and the next day was similar. So we were pretty sore after that. But
How much wood did you gather?
well, they're twigs.
Yeah.
So
I almost know what they look like, by the way, so.
red, and they were looking for specific height and
Yeah.
specific shape, and there were bundles of 11, and then of those bundles of 11, there were 10 bundles. So a batch of 11 and a bundle of 10. So there was a bundle like this, and that
Huh.
was one batch, and I think there were all close to 50 of those.
Wow.
So each one had, you know,
Who even knew there was a market for that?
the florists.
Yeah.
They last a long time, and they look pretty.
Yes.
And the city people like them.
And
I'm sure there's more stuff like that if
right.
only we
How
knew.
do you even know?
Well, somebody has to market it. That's where the
Right.
entrepreneurial stuff comes in. Because say you have something gorgeous growing in your backyard, and you're like, I wonder who would buy this. If I trimmed it, it'll come back next year gangbusters. It won't hurt it any. So, yeah, that's entrepreneurial. And so that's what we hope that we can help people learn how to do, is find those things, those entrepreneurial actions, and coax them into being. Because there's lots of places that give you services for starting your business plan and
Right.
following through and figuring out the budget. I don't want to do any of that part.
Right.
I've done that. For me, I don't want to do it. What I don't see are the people who help the person who's not sure they could do it get to the point of, yes, I can. That
Yeah.
stretch of the road I'm really interested in.
Yeah. I love some of the creative options with this. I mean, a strange gig like finding redwood sticks to me is fascinating. Yeah. We, unfortunately, are just about out of time.
Okay.
It goes really fast.
Yes, it does.
Anyway, thank you so much for coming in. Come back and we'll talk some more in a
Sure.
few months about where this has gone then.
That'd be great.
Great.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.